the emotional angle of it.
Sure.
How do you expect Bills fans to, like, this will turn it back up on Diggs and, like, the Diggs hate, if you will, the fact that he is now in the division and signing with New England? Like, I personally don't have any ill will towards him going there. I don't even know that he really truly wanted to go there.
He probably just couldn't say no to the money.
Got paid $69 million.
Yeah, 26 guaranteed.
On a multi-year contract off a torn ACL.
Yeah. Got more money than Chris Godwin per year.
They basically handed him a blank check, which was the story about New England and Godwin. They finally got a receiver to say yes to them after 5 years of trying Diggs before, and Cooper and Ayuk. And Ayuk, remember, I think part of the story was they had offered San Francisco what they wanted.
Ayuk said nope.
But Ayuk said, I'm not signing an extension there, so that killed the trade. So they couldn't get anybody to say yes to them. They finally got Diggs to do it. But again, the context is he's coming off a torn ACL. We're late in free agency here, and he's at an advanced age, and you gave him $70 million over 3 years.
Yeah.
So
it's a heist.
Do we care? Like, is anyone extra mad at him because he went to New England? Or is it just going to be natural? The fact that he's going to be in the division means that we're going to see him twice a year, and he's going to come back to Buffalo once a year, and he'll probably catch some passes, and he's a fiery dude, so maybe he'll jaw at the Bills, and it'll kind of naturally become, a thing, him playing the Bills.
Well, first, let me say this. And part of this could just be the bad blood that the fan base currently has with the team. But the city that still gets up and gets out to boo Jack Eichel is going this might have to mean that it's Bills Patriots home opener, like in prime time, like the Sunday night football or the Monday night game of Week 1. Because
is that good? Bills hosting Patriots on like Monday night
to start the year.
Division right out of the gates.
Yeah, I think that he will be relentlessly booed every time he touches the ball, when he runs out of the stadium, out of the tunnel. So let's just get that. That's what I think will and should happen. By the way, here's my take on Diggs. I don't know that I feel differently today or yesterday after the signing than I did necessarily when the trade to Houston first happened. But where I'm now at with Diggs is I get the sense or feel like everything other teams, other people, national media had said about him that everyone in this city defended him against, which was the reputation of being a diva, being a locker room cancer, and, quote, character issues. And I almost still hesitate to get to he has character issues or flaws. But I have a really hard time accepting the fact that what he did, how he did it, to a team that is firmly in a Super Bowl window, with him being a part of that, big part of that, and a team that rewarded him when they didn't have to, gave him a huge contract extension, and had a bail the first year it kicked in. And the things he did, the distraction he became, all of this because they weren't doing enough to make him feel like they were serious about winning. They weren't doing enough for Diggs. He gets traded to Houston and lasts half the season, tears his ACL. That's not his fault. But doesn't it say a little something that Houston wasn't at all interested in bringing him back? And maybe the injury is part of it.
Well, and the money's probably a part of it,
they
too.
They immediately traded for Christian Kirk. So first move they could make, they got his replacement. First move they could do, we're replacing you.
They've never talked at all like anything. They've only talked about him as a leader glowingly.
Of course they did. Because what they wanted to do is the same thing any team that would have Diggs wants to do. Yeah. We want to make sure that what you guys are saying, here's proof that it's not true. Look he's a great teammate. He's this, he's that. Well, listen, you can post that stuff on Twitter in August, but when it came down to it and you had an opportunity to bring him back, you with your number 2 receiver probably not slated to play this season, you said, nah, I'm good. We're good. Thank you. And just this whole concept of this is about winning. I need you guys to prove to me you're really all about winning. And then you sign with the Patriots?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. They gave you something you couldn't refuse. I will never hammer an athlete for taking the money, especially when the money's probably way above whatever you. They were bidding against themselves. No one else was going to give anything close to that to Stefon Diggs.
Yeah.
No one is nearly as desperate for the position as the New England Patriots. But, man, it just comes from a place where I'm thinking to myself, what a fraud. I mean, he's a fraud. Because you're going to sit here and talk about it's everybody else's fault that we haven't won. Everybody else's fault. Even though every single playoff game, I'm a no-show. Every big moment that required Stefon Diggs to be Stefon Diggs, he no-showed. Drops in the biggest moments. And then blaming his quarterback and showing him up every opportunity he could.
He did that one time. In front of everybody, he did it one time.
After he did the drop, he went like this to his quarterback. Like, hey, you missed me.
Yeah. If that's what you think, that's what that was.
I think what it comes down to is it's just why emotional attachment to athletes and thinking they're these people that, who they are on surface level. It rubbed me so wrong yesterday thinking about the fact of the context of why he acted the way he did here. In a perfect situation, a team and organization catered to him. He was the biggest thing this organization had done in 2 decades, was trading for Stefon Diggs. Yep. And they treated him that way. Rolled out the red carpet. Oh, you don't want to be at OTAs? Don't worry about it. No, you're good. Go do your stuff in the offseason. We don't care. Just come here and be a superstar. We love you. We'll defend you in the media. We'll get every opportunity we have to defend you, our fans, and our organization will. And how you treated everybody here, including the teammates, because every teammate that played with Diggs last year, 2 years ago, this last summer, took an opportunity to basically say, yeah, this place is way better without him.
Yeah, but then the moment, man, you saw the reaction to those guys when they saw him for the first time when they came back to Houston. Like, Tyrell Shavers is almost in tears seeing Diggs again for the first time in Houston. The guy, the way I look back on it, and this is what I think New England is going to get from him for now, is what the other thing the Bills, you want to say tasked him to do, or the other thing he became the alpha of that room. Yeah. He became the leader of that room, his position group especially, but of the entire offense. Who was the guy against the Jets when Allen is sitting on the sidelines red-faced because he's throwing interception after interception that is coming over to him and giving him a pep talk like, come on, dude, let's go. You get into this game. Who's the guy that's coming over to him and being a leader in that moment? It was Diggs. But that moment got shared 1/100th of the amount of times that the Bengals moment got shared.
Because in the playoffs... And you're on the sidelines. Right. He's making it about himself.
And that's why I think he is definitely, there's no doubt, that there's enough smoke about it, that he's a lot to handle behind the scenes. But I think most of it comes from the fact that he wants to be the alpha of the room. He naturally is that type of personality.
It's not about winning. It's about him. He went to the only place.
That's the thing that's weird to me about this move. I'm not going to go all the way to call him a fraud, but I understand why you'd say that because that's always how I've thought of him. That his biggest problem here was the guy just can't take not winning. Like, he is on a level of some of the greatest competitors ever where you just, it's almost to a fault. And in fact, in this instance, you might say it is. He just can't handle the losing. He's got to win. That's how I've thought of him, and that's how he has carried himself.
Tried to portray.
And then he got to free agency, and he went to New England, which I don't know that you got to work hard to say that they could be a good team, but you got to work very hard to say that they are anything near winning a Super Bowl. And that's supposed to be for him what it's all about. And you signed up for a team where a success is just squeaking into the playoffs.
I think that there is a greater desire to be the alpha than there is to win. And I view this now in hindsight to say this wasn't about his refusal to lose. It was about the hierarchy that he saw himself crumbling. He saw himself taking a back seat to the quarterback for the first time in his career here. And what did he do? Literally forced his way out. Made a team in a Super Bowl window take a $45 million dead cap hit. Because they'd rather pay that money than to have you on this team anymore. So to me, it just and then a little thing for me is they went from a team that had like 8 captains to 2. I also don't think that's not something that also has a little bit of like Diggs dust.
I think you're not giving enough credit, though, to the Bills initiating a lot of that. In that there was a quote in a story from before the season. I'm forgetting who wrote it. That maybe it was Tim Graham. That let me check that before I attribute that to him. That basically ownership wanted to see Allen become more of a leader. That they want to task him with that. So even if I could set aside all of Diggs' motivation to the side here for a moment and just know, well, he has been the leader of that room. He has been the guy. Like, again, he goes over to Allen and gives pep talks, not the other way around. If you want Allen to be more of the leader of that room, of that unit, then even if you don't care what Diggs is, what do you do? Or what Diggs wants, what do you do? You might trade him anyway. Because you might feel like Allen can never fully become that and become the full leader if the other guy who's been that is still in the room. He might cede to Diggs in that way. I think there is Bill's motivation on that front too, and I've always said that a lot of that was clear the deck so that Josh can be the guy.
Where in any other organization, find me one example, where a wide receiver has more to say about who can lead and when they can lead than Diggs in Buffalo. Did Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver of all time, the greatest, did he step on Steve Young when he took over for the greatest quarterback of all time previous? No, he didn't.
But it depends.
T.O. didn't even do that.
It depends on the type of personality you have at quarterback already, right? Like Allen, it would be easier for somebody to take that role of being the intense leader when the quarterback just wants to be one of the guys. And that has always been Allen's mantra really until this year, which was just 1/11th, one of the boys. It was not until this season where it really was, okay, you got to be more than that. You got to be more than just one of the guys.
But why does it take you removing another leader on your team in order for him to elevate? Why, in any scenario, would it not be, if you're a real leader on this team and you care about the success of your quarterback, would you have to, you couldn't put aside your own desire to be the alpha to prop up the most important player in the organization. Wherever he goes, whether it was in Minnesota or here or Houston, he will never be the most important player in an organization because he's not a quarterback.
Right.
That takes a little self-awareness.
Yeah, that does.
And the idea that the Bills looked at it as our only way to make Josh Allen a better leader is by getting rid of his best offensive weapon says way more about Diggs than it does about Allen. It says way more to me about the person there, because that's why I use the word fraud, is if it's really about winning, if it truly is the desire or the need to win, you absolutely do everything you can to prop up the quarterback, not do what he did.
Which was what?
Which was force his way out.
Again, I think that is overstated. I'm not saying he didn't want to go. The Bills got paid.
He spent the entire previous offseason.
The Bills
tweeting and being a distraction, not showing up and then showing up.
What I'm saying is if all of that didn't happen, they probably would have traded him anyway.
I disagree.
He was the least efficient wide receiver in football for 8 games, and someone came and offered them a second-round pick for a 30-year-old wide receiver.
Who says no to that? I don't even think he's on the mark. I don't think anyone's reaching out to the Bills if the previous offseason didn't happen.
That might be the difference. That might be right. To
no
me,
one's
though,
even reaching out because he would be entering year 2 of his extension.
But to me, like, there is enough argument that they cashed out, aside all of this, they cashed out at the right time because he was aging. He was a player that it was becoming more and more clear he's got to move to the slot. And that's exactly what he did when he got to Houston. He's got to move to the inside because the wheels on those deep balls, Matt Harmon, when he charts all his route success rate, you started to see, instead of everything being in the green, those couple of routes at the top are starting to look orange.
But
he's starting to become below average at the go route, at the deep post, and the deep comeback. Some of those routes are starting to come back, and, okay, he might be a guy that has to go to the slot more. Well, we've got Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
And we like him a lot. So
but can't both of these things be true? Can't both of it be? I totally agree with you.
Yes, they could both be true.
They walked away from the table.
They probably are both true.
They walked away from the table at the absolute perfect time. And they got a premium asset in exchange for it.
That's the other part of it to me that is always, that's left unsaid too much, is that if you look back on the history of wide receivers at that age on that contract, when they get dealt, how much they go for, it's day 3 picks.
They got
almost every time it's a day 3 pick.
60% better than Amari Cooper went for a sixth.
Because think about how Houston looks back on that trade. They're not happy with that trade.
No.
They got half a year. I mean, even if he had played the whole year, I guess depends what you do in the playoffs. But they're not happy with it at all. No. They got 1 year, not even a full year.
They got 8 games.
Of a guy who did really good in those 8 games, but they gave up a second-round pick to do it.
Yep. And now they have no offensive lineman, and they need to draft offensive lineman.
That's why he shouldn't have cost that much. He should not have cost a second-round pick.
Agree.
And the price definitely factors in as well. So now, he goes to New England. To me, before we get to what the Patriots are, I do like it for them a lot. But there is definitely risk. I can look up, Evan Lazar had this number yesterday. One number that I look at once in a while is ESPN's open score. How good is a receiver just straight up at getting open? A.J. Brown was number 1 in the league last year. Stefon Diggs was number 2 in the league. Second best open scorer in the NFL. Even that, though, there's risk because you don't know if he's going to be able to do that again. Because not only is he getting a year older, and at that age, sometimes it happens quick. You don't know how fast the decline is going to come. On top of that, he's coming off a torn ACL. So the age, the injury, that's a lot of risk, which is why, contracts are kind of whatever now, right? You can push the money wherever you want. They're a lot more flexible than we've really talked about them being. But giving a commitment like that to a player that carries that risk, it speaks of their desperation for 5 years to never get a receiver. That they can't get anybody to say yes to them. They had to give a deal like that to a guy that they have no idea what he's going to look like in year 2 or 3. The upside of it, I like for them. I just don't know if it's going to happen. The upside to me, their whole offseason has been pretty nice, right? Vrabel is a real coach, and he's a professional, and the culture that he brings, and they added to the defense, right? They spent more money this offseason than anybody. They add Milton Williams. They had the most money. Yeah. They did have the most money. But what was the one thing they hadn't succeeded in? Surrounding their young quarterback, who looked really good in year 1, with adequate weapons to take the next step. For me, when they add Diggs, I'm seeing a few of this from New England people that, this is like when Diggs went to Buffalo.
No, it is not.
Even they might admit he's not as good as he was then, but this is not the Diggs move. In fact, that's to me isn't to say this isn't helpful. To me, Diggs going to New England is Beasley coming to Buffalo.
Totally.
It is your underneath safety option, veteran receiver that's there as a trustworthy guy in the inside. He is their Beasley. He is not their Diggs.
I might argue he's their Sanders.
Or that's fine. Those are close enough, I think, right? The difference is, though, when Sanders was here at the end, he could get open still, downfield and on the outside. And again, that's to me going to be the biggest question mark with Diggs. He didn't get asked to do that in Houston last year, and the last time we saw him do it in Buffalo, it was super inefficient. He got a ton of targets in that second half of Joe Brady's interim year, and he was the least efficient receiver in football. I don't know if he can play on the outside like that anymore. But maybe you're right. Maybe what Sanders wasn't an elite player, so maybe he has that in there.
And I also I don't see him walking. What did Beasley have his first year, his first full season? 145 targets or something?
He had some big target years.
That's not happening for Diggs.
Cole Beasley, let's see. 2019 with the Bills, he had 106 targets.
And then the next year was when he went off.
67 yards.
Right?
The next year he had 82 catches for 967 yards.
Yeah. I don't see those numbers.
Yeah. 778 and 6 touchdowns, though, I could see. That's Beasley's first year.
Yeah.
Because all they're looking for with him, I think, is give me a professional receiver that is going to be in the slot and produce with my young quarterback. They still, though, are missing the top guy on the outside. Mm-hmm. And we can get to that. 803-0550 is the phone number. Jay, if you stay on hold, we'll get to you. On Diggs going to New England. If you want to play the revisionist history game, we can, of course, do that, too. I want to get to, though, what it does for New England in the AFC East. What the whole offseason does. Not just Diggs. Diggs is just kind of maybe their cherry on top. The bigger, more impactful moves they've made have already happened. 803-0550 is the phone number. It's Joe DiBiase.